For a million years ago, long before the rise of civilizations, before cities, before even the concept of farming, our ancestors walked the earth as survivors. These early hominids, primitive humans, lived in a harsh and unforgiving world where every single day was a fight for survival. The burning African sun, the sudden downpours of rain, the lurking shadows of predators like lions, leopards, and giant snakes all reminded them that survival was not promised. But perhaps the greatest challenge they faced was hunger. What did the first humans really eat? Their survival diet might shock us today. Contrary to what we imagine, these hominids didn't have access to fire first. So there was no roasted meat, no cooked vegetables, no steaming bowls of soup. Their diet was raw, wild, and opportunistic. Before we continue this video, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. They ate what they could find, what nature forced into their desperate hands. One of the earliest and most important foods was insects. Termites, caterpillars, and beetle larvae were packed with protein. Archaeological digs and studies of early hunter-gatherer societies suggest that termites, in particular, were a staple food. Imagine small groups of hominids gathering around termite mounds, breaking them open with sticks and scooping out wriggling insects. To us, it might seem disgusting, but to them, it was life-saving fuel, rich in protein and fat. Leaves, fruits, and roots were another critical part of their diet. Unlike modern fruits that are large, sweet, and juicy, ancient wild fruits were often small, bitter, and full of seeds. Still, they provided vital vitamins and hydration. Pregnant hominid females were often seen chewing tough fibrous leaves or digging with sticks for edible tubers beneath the soil. These plants were their medicine and their lifeline, helping them survive dry seasons when prey animals were scarce. But survival sometimes required risks. These ancestors were not always hunters. They were scavengers, too. When a lion or hyena killed prey and left scraps behind, brave hominids crept close to tear away pieces of raw flesh or crack open bones with stones to access the marrow inside. This marrow, rich in fat and energy, may have been one of the key foods that fueled the growth of the human brain. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't appetizing. But it was survival. Imagine a scene. A male hominid crouches beside a termite mound. With a sharpened stick, he stabs a nest and pulls it out, covered in wriggling white termites. He shakes them into his mouth, crunching noisily. His pregnant mate nearby pulls fresh leaves from a branch and chews slowly, occasionally rubbing her swollen belly. Nearby, children experiment with eating caterpillars, squishing them between their teeth. Suddenly, the group spots vultures circling in the distance. They know what this means: a predator's kill. Carefully, the small band of hominids approaches, hearts pounding, sticks ready not to fight the predator, but to scare off hyenas and jackals long enough to steal scraps of meat. This is what life was like. A constant gamble between starvation and risk. The shocking truth is that the first humans were not mighty hunters at the top of the food chain. They were survivors who made do with what they found: insects, plants, marrow, and occasionally raw meat. This survival diet might look pitiful compared to the food we eat today, but without it, humanity might never have made it this far. Yet, the story does not end here. Over time, hominids learned to adapt even more, finding new foods, new strategies, and new ways to outsmart the unforgiving wilderness. As the generations passed, early humans became more resourceful in finding food. Their survival diet grew richer, but it remained shocking by today's standards. Let us step deeper into their world. In the dry season, rivers shrank into muddy pools, and food became desperately scarce. The hominids had to turn to whatever they could find. They dug up roots with sharpened sticks, sometimes chewing through bitter, poisonous-tasting plants that made them sick. They watched animals carefully, learning which plants were safe by observing what monkeys, baboons, or antelopes ate. They also discovered honey, an incredible energy source. Risking bee stings, they raided hives hidden in tree hollows, smearing themselves in mud to dull the pain as they reached for the golden sweetness inside. Honey wasn't just food, it was a miracle, bursting with sugar and energy that could keep them alive for days. But perhaps the most shocking part of their diet was the way they interacted with meat. They rarely killed large prey themselves. Without spears or bows, they were too slow, too weak, and too poorly armed. Instead, They became skilled scavengers. Scientists believe they used sharp stones to cut meat from carcasses left by predators. Cracking bones with rocks gave them access to the precious marrow within, an energy-dense food that fueled their bodies and possibly their brains. The sound of stones striking bone, echoing across the savannah, may have been one of the first steps in humanity's long path toward technology. Picture another vivid moment. A hominid stumbles across the half-eaten remains of an antelope. Hyenas circle, growling in frustration, as the bold human smashes a bone open. Hot marrow drips onto his face as he sucks it out greedily. His clan gathers around, sharing scraps, while keeping a wary eye on the predators that could attack at any moment. This was a daily gamble. The risk of death for the reward of food. And then there were the insects. Grasshoppers, beetles, termites, and caterpillars made up a surprising portion of their diet. A child might chase grasshoppers into a woven pouch while the adults roasted nothing. Remember, fire had not yet been mastered. Instead, the insects were eaten raw, legs and all, swallowed whole in desperate gulps. Pregnant females often ate more leafy greens and roots to sustain themselves and their unborn children. In some cases, they even chewed clay or dirt, what scientists call geophagy, to calm nausea or absorb minerals. This practice is still seen in some cultures today, and may have started with our most ancient ancestors. Every bite of food was a lesson in survival. Every risk taken was a gamble between life and death. But over millions of years, this shocking survival diet shaped us into who we are today. It taught our ancestors adaptability, resilience, and resourcefulness. So, what did the first humans really eat? They ate termites and marrow, bitter roots and wild fruits, caterpillars and honey, scraps of meat torn from carcasses, and whatever else nature offered. To us, it might seem shocking, even revolting, but to them, it was the foundation of survival. Without this strange, desperate, raw diet, humanity's story would never have begun. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson. Our ancestors did not choose what was delicious. They chose what was possible. And in doing so, they forged a path that led us all here millions of years later, with full plates, cooked meals, and the luxury to wonder about the shocking survival diet of the first humans.